So in some of my other videos, I have made reference to the fact that I used to refer to myself as a composer, and I have in fact written quite a bit of music, and that I no longer refer to myself as a composer. Now, this topic is actually very, very personal to me, but I do think there is real relevance to creative people who are wanting to run themselves as a business. And frankly, I think this is critical, and I'm going to do another entire video on that. If you want to succeed as an artist, at least part of your identity needs to be as a business person for you to succeed. You need to be able to pay your rent and put food on the table for yourself and your family. And so if you're not a business, you're just simply not going to be able to sustain being an artist. And so the decision to let go of being a composer was something that I felt I needed to do for the sake of the business. I am glad that I did it, but equally, it's also one of the most painful things I've ever done. Now, just for context, for anybody who hasn't seen the video where I talk about my background, I composed and orchestrated the first ever fully orchestral game score produced in Australia. And in fact, I did 3 live orchestral recordings with Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. Those experiences were and still are some of the greatest experiences of my entire life. I got to scribble on a page and have genius musicians turn that into music. For the first project, it was also basically a dream come true. Since when I was 10 and I saw Star Wars, I had always loved John Williams' music, and the first project I got to work on with a real orchestra was a Jurassic Park game, and my task was to write over an hour of music that was Jurassic Park music. And I got to sneakily use the theme from Jurassic Park here and there, but most of it was original music on my part, trying to sound like that. And to the day I die, that will be one of the greatest experiences of my life. So why did I make that decision? Well, I got to do those projects 20 years ago. I was the entire audio department of the studio that was working on this project. I'd written the music, and it was a very easy decision for the publisher, Universal Interactive, to say, well, he's writing the music, seems to be working, let's use an orchestra. They handed it to me on a platter. Oh, and I appreciate so much the privilege I had in having that occur. But I've never had composing lessons. I've never really had harmony lessons. I'm pretty much self-taught on all this sort of stuff. I never had orchestration lessons. I was self-taught on that. I was a French horn player. I was a classical musician in my training. I did not learn at university or school how to write music, how to compose, how to orchestrate, how to harmonize things, how harmony works. I'm an incredibly slow writer. It takes me weeks and weeks to write music like that, and most of it is trial and error. So I think I was staggeringly lucky to have that opportunity, and staggeringly lucky to have the time to produce those. And I think I did a good job. I think I could be confident in referring to myself as a competent composer. I'm not a good composer. And there are people that I know who in 2 hours could produce better content that I can produce in 2 or 3 weeks. And so from that point of view, I can't compete. I can't be a composer in all good faith. If I was working on a little project that, had a tiny budget and it didn't really matter, I could try my hardest and I could churn out something that they'd probably be happy with. But for a client that is wanting to throw around the sort of money you need for an orchestra these days, that's where it's no longer just imposter syndrome, it's reality. And it hurts. It really, really hurts, because it's like, I can remember a time 20 years ago when I could see with my own eyes magic and unicorns existed and fairies would talk to me, and I've had to give that up. And if you knew anything about the type of person I am, you would understand the pain involved in that. But as a businessman who's running his own business, I have no choice. There are things that I am good at, and I'm pretty damn good at location recording and technical sound design and implementation and sound crafting, and I can do a damn good job creating those things in a timely, efficient manner to a very high standard. So as somebody who is the manager of my business, I have to be aware of the employees myself that are under my control, I guess. And so it's not a viable or reasonable financial decision to allow Stefan Schutz, the employee, to be a composer. It risks the viability of my company for me to do this. And this was an important decision and an important understanding on my part to let it go. And part of me felt like I'd let go of a burden by no longer referring to myself as a composer, because it was damned hard for me to pull it off. Because I knew there were people who were so much better than me. And this allows me to collaborate with those people, and that's glorious. But it's very, very much a double-edged sword. And this aspect is probably more than any one other aspect the absolute personification of the whole concept of the beautiful curse. I get to do what I love to do, but I had to make a really hard decision that regularly comes back and reminds me why it breaks my heart to do it. And sure, I could write some music in my own time for myself, or, because I want to, and that's fine. We start out broadly, kind of a bit of a shotgun approach. Oh, I can do everything. And I think that's wise. You don't want to say no to things. I've got these skills and these skills and these skills, and yeah, I can do all these things. But I think as we mature our careers and we refine ourselves, I think we need to narrow that focus. I think as we become more focused, I think it allows us to polish more in one area rather than a thinner layer of polish across a broader area. So I think there is value in that. And I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but I would say think carefully about how you define yourself to yourself as well as to other people. And if you've watched to this point, thank you very much for indulging this one. And thank you very much for understanding as well. Stay safe.